It's Wednesday, we're together again, and I am thrilled to be here with you. I've come to really look forward to this time we spend together. I love digging into these topics, and this past week was awesome. So the video we did was fun, it was light, we talked about drinking beer, we talked about being on the lake, we dropped some wisdom along the way. It was just a lot of fun. What struck me this week as I was engaging with the comments and the people that responded to the video was that I don't always know who's watching or where you're from. So I would love for you to hit the comments right now. Let me know where you're from, what city you're in. I would love to see who's out there and all the different places we might be touching. Ask questions, give feedback, whatever it is. I love the engagement, and that's really one of the big reasons I do these videos. Last week we talked about it being light. This week, we're going to dig into a different set of emotions that whether you're a leader, whether you're a solopreneur, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're an employee or a team member, wherever it is, I'm willing to bet that our topic today is going to hit you in a place that you're able to say, I've been there, or I find myself there from time to time. So the topic for today is when enough really is enough, right? And what got me here was I just found myself thinking about what it takes to really make a change, what it really takes to go after what we want in our lives and our businesses, right? What is that point that makes us do something differently, right? And for a lot of us, we would like to think, oh, it's motivation, or I'm encouraged, or I'm on high, or I have this bright, lofty vision that I find myself wanting to chase each and every day. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of change happens because of emotions on the other side of the spectrum. We find ourselves frustrated. We find ourselves disappointed. We find ourselves scared of our future or what may be waiting for us. Honestly, we just find ourselves fed up. And we get to a point where we say, look, enough is enough. I don't want to feel this way anymore. I don't want to do it like this anymore. Something has to change. And it makes perfect sense. Right now, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. A lot of you are running businesses at limited capacity, or you can't have people in, or something's going on which has impacted your ability to do what you do, right? You probably came into 2020 with a set of goals and a plan to get there, and all of a sudden that was derailed by environmental pressure that had nothing to do with decisions you made, right? And you're left picking up the pieces. So it makes sense that you might be frustrated. It makes sense that you might be disappointed. It makes sense that you might be scared about what all of this outside impact is going to have on the short-term and long-term future of your business, of your life, of your family. So I wanted to dig into that a little bit. And thinking about this, I thought back to a time in my life when I worked for Herf Jones, a company up in Indianapolis, right? $1 billion company. They do class rings, caps and gowns, yearbooks, all kinds of things. They're a very traditional company. They've been around for over 100 years. And there was a point where they knew they had to change. They had a real desire to change. And a big part of that change was breaking into the education technology space. And they tried. They tried a few different ways to get there. They acquired companies at different stages, right? They acquired startups, they acquired, more mature companies, but for whatever reason, they just couldn't quite get over that hump. And in my time there, I was fortunate enough to work with a pretty dynamic leader who looked at the situation. He was actually a CEO of a company they acquired, and the path he was on before they acquired and what it looked like after were totally different, not in the best way. But he was a dynamic leader that looked at the situation and was brave enough to say, enough is enough. We can't keep doing it the way we've been doing it. So he went to leadership and he built a pretty dynamic team. Honestly, it's one of the best teams I've ever worked on. The talent we had, the people we had, the personalities and the drive were incredible. And we experienced a ton of success, right? But that success couldn't happen. There wasn't space for that success until we got past doing it the way the company had always done it. So this leader went to Herf Jones, he talked to the leadership and he said, look, we can't exist within the corporate culture, within the office. We can't accomplish the things you want us to accomplish without changing something. So he got their blessing to take our small team to leave the corporate campus and operate almost as a startup. We operated as a Skunk Works project that wholly existed outside of the performance engine of what was going on. And once we got outside of the history, the pressures of the day-to-day business, we were able to see things differently, do things differently, and hit goals that I don't think we would have hit had we existed the way we previously had. So that to me is a great example of what happens when not only this leader was fed up and not being as successful as he thought he could be, but when the entire leadership of Herff Jones really stepped up and said, we want to be successful, we want those things, we're fed up with not being as great as we can be, and we're going to do things differently, we're going to look at things differently. So I think that's where a lot of us are, right? We get to a point where we're just so fed up with things, right? Maybe it's we're fed up with the day-to-day activity that we find ourselves mired in. Maybe we're fed up with, not being able to build a team to take some of this stuff off of us. Maybe we're fed up with not bringing more leads in the door, not finding new clients and new customers. Maybe we're fed up with lost revenue because of COVID that we haven't quite figured out how to replace. Whatever it is that's making you feel the way you feel in those moments, I want to talk to you a little bit about how we get past it, how we change it. And I think that Herff Jones example serves as a great backdrop. So why did it work? Why did we take something that traditionally hadn't been all that successful in the company, do it a different way, or even get to the point where there was courage enough to explore doing it a different way, to make the ask, to have the hard conversations about why it's not working and what else could work. And again, it comes to being fed up. So why did it work that we had the courage to make the change, had the courage to ask the questions, moved off campus, and were able to hit goals that we just weren't hitting before? Well, I think there are three things that really led to that. All right. First, I think the guy that I worked with decided enough is enough. And it wasn't just him. I give the leadership at Herff Jones a ton of credit. You've got to remember, this was a 100-year-old company that had done things the way they had done them for a long time. I give them a ton of credit for listening to what he had to say and being open to doing things differently, to doing it a different way, right? So not only did he decide enough was enough, but the company as a whole decided enough was enough. And in that opened the door for conversations and exploration to examine other options that may be on the table, right? So the first thing is you've got to decide that enough is enough. And some of you may not be there yet, right? Some of you may still be in a place where you're just going to wait it out. Some of you may be in a place where you're telling yourself, oh, it's fine. You might be in a place where you want more things. You want to hit your goals. You want things to be different, but you may not want them bad enough to make any kind of significant change or try something new. And that's okay, right? Maybe what you're doing now will work. And if it doesn't, I'm willing to bet you reach that point where you do decide you've had enough, that you are fed up, and you can move on to steps 2 and 3. So once that decision is made, once you acknowledge that you're at that point and you're not going to do it the old way for another day, it's time to change your plan, right? It's time to be really honest with yourself. Look inward at what you're doing in your life, what you're doing in your business, and say, this isn't working the way I thought it would, or this isn't working the way I want it to. So we're going to do something different. And here at step 2, we need to really examine what is our plan? How are we going to bring in more leads? How am I going to delegate some of these responsibilities? How am I going to spend more time at home with my family? How am I going to bring in lost revenue, right? And once you've acknowledged that there's a problem that needs to be addressed, I think it's a lot easier to kind of open up your mind and ideate on what else can you do? How can it look different? What are the options there? And once you make it through that step and you've nailed down 1 or 2 things you can try, step 3 is simple. It's time to get to work. It's time to act, right? So we acknowledge there's a problem. We figure out that the plan, the way we were doing it before isn't working and we want to do it differently. And lastly, once we have a new way to do it or a new idea to explore, we move forward. We run forward. We sprint forward into that new way, into that other idea, into that alternative path, right? I see clients do these kind of things every day, right? And sometimes they know how they're feeling. They know they're disappointed. They know they're frustrated. They know they're fed up, but they can't pinpoint why. In our coaching sessions and our time together, we really dig into a lot of those emotions and try to drive to the core of what's there. And once we've identified that they're there, once we've identified that they're at this line and they want to do it differently, then the door is wide open to explore what that could look like. Right? We work together, we put together a plan, and ultimately they go to work of making things different, of making things better for them, for their business, for their teams, right? So that's my challenge for you today. Figure out where it is in your life or your business where you look around, you just say, I've had enough. Enough is finally enough, and it's got to be different starting today. And once you've identified those areas, right, figure out what are some things I can do differently? How can I change this? I'm not just going to wait for things to go back to how they were or become what I want them to be. I'm going to be active. I'm going to be an active participant. I'm going to drive this change forward. And lastly, once you decide how to do that or what that looks like, act and move forward. Now, again, as a professional coach, this is some of the work I love helping people with. So if you find yourself there personally or professionally, please feel free to reach out. Let me know. Happy to talk to you one-on-one about other things I've seen, expand on this idea, and hear about where you are, where you want to go, and what it might look like to get there. So again, thank you for spending time with me. I look so forward to these Wednesdays. I know that this is a little heavier topic. We dealt with a little bit of darker emotions, but I know as business owners, we've all felt them. I know I certainly have throughout my journey, and I'm willing to bet you have too. But you don't have to. We can find the other side. We can get through it. If you know somebody who would find this information useful, would find this video useful, please hit the comments once again. Tag them right now so they can see it. Thank you all for being here. Make sure you visit me at darylsweeney.com. That's DERYLSWEENEY.com. Sign up for my email list. I send an email out that highlights all of these videos, tells you about the topics and other fun stuff coming up. So again, thank you for being here. Before I go, let me say one more thing. I am working on something pretty cool. I am working on, and it kind of ties into this topic, but I see so many clients, so many friends, so many business owners and leaders who have goals, have very important goals that they believe can move themselves forward, but they haven't figured out quite how to do it, or they don't have time to do it. They don't have the space, the capacity. They just can't seem to get to them. So I am in the middle right now of putting together a course to help you do just that. This course combines focus and mentorship and will help you drive straight towards some of those goals that have been sitting on the back burner. It's not ready yet. I hope to release it sometime in September. I'm playing around with it. I'm actually running myself through it right now and using it to build out this course. But I'm excited to share it with you, and you will learn more about that in the coming weeks. Until then, I will see you next time. Thanks so much.